night and an early morning for you. But speaking of early mornings, we're now joined by Richard Rosso, Senior Advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and Mukesh Aghi, the President of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us. Mukesh, coming to you first. Clearly an unexpected result, an unexpected verdict. The exit polls had suggested a picture that was firmly putting the BJP in pole position and, 400 plus for the NDA, but it hasn't turned out that way. How will foreign investors read this victory?
Well, the BJP is still the largest party, and we expect the Prime Minister to come back and form the government. And we expect the reform agenda to continue, because you have to understand, it's not just about political parties coming and going within India. India plays a very strategic role from global geopolitics perspective. It is a country which is going to provide market opportunity as a $4 trillion economy to a $5 trillion economy, and growing until 2047 at a much, much larger number. It is a market which basically helps de-risk from China and the supply chain. So the investor sentiment on India is still very strong. It will continue, because when you look at the other geographies, they're also in turmoil. And so India provides a sense of growth and opportunity for the US companies itself.
But Mukesh, what, in terms of prioritization with the verdict that's come in, what would the expectation be of the next government? We do have that big budget coming up, the full budget that will be presented in July. From a foreign investor's perspective, what are you now going to be watching out for to build on the momentum that we've already seen?
Well, you have to look at it from the foreign investors. They're looking for a sense of stability. They're looking for a sense of transparency. They're looking for a sense of level playing field. And when the new budget comes in, we expect the budget to continue with the reform, managing the deficit, improving in the banking sector, improving on the reform on the labor side, on the agriculture side. So we basically are expecting the reform agenda to progress much more aggressively. You have to understand, we have to create jobs in India, almost 1 million new jobs a month itself. And you can only create by attracting technology and investment from around the world. And that's going to come in because India becomes a much more better place to invest vis-a-vis other geographies such as China. But more importantly, you have to understand the geopolitics also plays a critical role for India. US companies are basically looking at de-risking from China. And I think as India reforms further, India becomes much more attractive. So we do expect from a US company perspective, the reform agenda to continue. And we expect the US company to keep on investing in India in the mid to short term itself.
Yes, but to be fair, all states at this point in time are trying to press ahead and draw in investors, both domestic as well as foreign investors, whether it is, the easy availability of land, all kinds of concessions. There is, in fact, almost a competition on between states on who they can woo and who they can bring onto their own shores. Mukesh, how are investors seeing that? As I said, you've got Tamil Nadu battling it out with Gujarat, Gujarat battling it out with Telangana, Telangana battling it out with Maharashtra, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, investors benefit because you're going to probably get a much better deal with this competitive federalism underway.
No, absolutely, Shereen. The states have tasted the blood, and they know that if they want to draw investors, if they want to create jobs, if they want to grow their state economy, they have to compete. And we keep on hosting on a monthly basis more and more of state investment delegation coming to the United States. So I believe from a state perspective, anybody who comes in will have to work to draw investments internationally. And for them to draw investment, they have to compete with other states. That means you got to have a much more aggressive package offer to those investors. You got to have a much more transparent policy making. You have to have a much more reform agenda. So I think it's not just about India competing on a global basis. Now it's states competing on a global basis, and that reform agenda continues. And you'll see a much more aggressive stance as the state government take their position in a global order.
Mukesh Aghi, always a pleasure. For today, on the big day for Indian democracy and the big day for for our markets, for business and investors. Thanks very much for joining us to decode the election result.